Today's scam awareness video is about a scam that specifically targets a subset of people over the age of 50. It's fake messages about a routine medical screening procedure. If you're younger than that age bracket, there's potentially still something to learn here, because if you're lucky, you one day will be in that age bracket. Also, we're going to discuss the common misconception that it's only old people who get scammed. If, like me, you're over the age of 50 and you live in the UK, you may have received a letter like this one. Sorry there's so much redacted on this page, but I hope the reasons are obvious. This letter is an invitation to be screened for bowel cancer. The way this process works is that about 2 weeks after this letter, a screening kit will arrive. You take a sample, seal it up, send it back. They check the sample for signs that might indicate bowel cancer, and then either send you a confirmation letter saying they found nothing, or invite you for further tests if there's anything to investigate. It's all a good process. This is a completely routine program, and this letter is genuine and is not the scam. A few days after I received the letter, I got an email purporting to be from Yodel and titled, "We have yours. NHS rolls out life-saving home testing." TLDR for busy people, this email is the scam. The NHS doesn't use Yodel for these deliveries. Your test kit will arrive via Royal Mail 2 weeks after the letter without you needing to click a link or otherwise lift a finger. The longer version, the body text reads, "Hi, we've received your parcel, NHS test kit for delivery. Choose one of the options below. Home delivery, office delivery." Then there's a bit of text supposedly from the sender. "NHS, we're sending you an NHS screening kit. Please don't ignore it. Read the instructions and complete the test, as it's important." And a link related to the test, which is indeed a genuine link to the NHS page about routine bowel cancer screening. Not going to be in? Update your preferences here. So at very first glance, this email might seem reasonably plausible. There are no egregious errors in the text. As usual for the mail client I happened to be using to preview it, the headers were collapsed down, so only the friendly name of the sender account was visible. I don't think this is a good idea, by the way. It just says Yodel. That's the name of a delivery company here in the UK, by the way. But this email is not genuine, and the links will go to a phishing or malware page. One obvious thing that made this message maybe feel a bit more likely to be genuine is the timing. I had indeed received the invitation letter, and so I was expecting delivery of a screening kit. I was in a way primed to accept this as genuine. Okay, so on very cursory examination, it sort of looks maybe genuine-ish. So why didn't I click on the link to make my delivery choice? The reason is a different kind of priming. My default position for links in electronic messages, which I've drummed into myself and everybody else, is that links are not to be simply trusted. They're guilty until proven innocent. I will assume that a link is bad until and unless there is significant reason to believe otherwise. I've primed myself not to just click links in emails, in part through continually saying not to do that in this video series. So for that reason, in fact, my first gut reaction to this email was annoyance, because at first glance I thought it might be genuine, and I was just annoyed that the NHS would have implemented a process that would require me to click on a link in an email. And I think this is maybe the most important point in any and all of my scam awareness series. You've got to quell that instinct to click the link just because it says click here. You've got to act deliberately. And that urge to click links to see where they're going is strong. One way I think I see it manifest is the helpful and hopeful comments I get when I tell people I'm not following the links. People often react by suggesting ways they believe I could maybe safely click it, like using VPNs or VM or some other method. Often a method that would not provide any meaningful protection, by the way. People really want to know where the link goes, and I get it. I think curiosity is a wonderful thing. But in this specific context, I think this is somewhere where curiosity needs to be reined in. Other parts of my decision process that confirmed this was not a genuine link in no particular order are expanding the email header to see the actual from address. This revealed it was not from Yodel. Of course, companies sometimes use outside domains for their communications. For example, Royal Mail uses a cutesy short address on a domain different from their main one. And that always looked kind of scammy to me, but it's not. But the from address in this message looked completely wrong to me. By the way, in case you're wondering why I redact things like email addresses in these videos, it's YouTube policy. But also if, as is quite likely, the from address is spoofed here, this could be the personal email address of some completely innocent and unconnected human, and publishing their address in a video could lead to them receiving harassment they simply don't deserve. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, reasons I didn't click. One of the other reasons I didn't click is because I've received 7 different copies of this email arriving at random intervals across a 12-hour period. Someone really wants me to click that link, but I'm not gonna. Of course, if I'd immediately reacted to the first one before the other 6 arrived, I might not have seen this red flag, so I suppose the lesson here is to calm down the reflexes a bit. Not many things are really that urgent. Another red flag was the nature of the question itself. The NHS just sent the invitation letter to my home address. They'll send the test kit to my home address. The whole choice of home delivery or office delivery is completely spurious. Next is the fact that this email, supposedly from Yodel, contains a little more information than I would expect if that were true. If this were genuine, the most I would expect it to say is they have a parcel for me from the NHS. My medical record would be none of Yodel's business. The reason this text is here, though, is to try to make it feel more aligned with the real thing. But if this were the real thing, this text would not, I think, be present. As I've said before, I'm not interested in somehow finding or inventing a notionally safe way to click on this link to show you the malware or phishing attack. I don't need to investigate it further to know this has bad intent. So in this video there will be no "I clicked so you don't have to." There is instead "I didn't click it and neither should you." I did hover the link just for the purpose of illustration in this video, and of course the links don't go to Yodel, which is a red flag all by itself. But I would say even hovering the link is not really a thing you should choose to do, or it's certainly not the first thing you should do. Simply because mousing over the link or trying to copy it out and paste it into Notepad is one step closer to accidentally clicking it, especially on a laptop touchpad or tablet. And here's a little learning point that I think works both in this situation of a suspect email and other situations such as a giant sinkhole opening up in the street. Don't take one step closer to danger. I mean literally, don't walk with your literal feet closer to danger like the people in this video clip are somehow choosing to do. But also figuratively, don't do any extra and completely unnecessary thing that has a risk attached to it. It's unnecessary to investigate the links because there's other evidence in plain sight that this is a malicious email. There are a few other little weird things in some of the language, but they're fairly subtle and not really big enough red flags to trip up over. Sometimes the wording in official emails is a bit off, or contains weird little typos and other errors, so we probably shouldn't get too hung up on the minutiae of the wording. There is also the fact that the NHS doesn't use Yodel to deliver these kits. I know that because this is not my first time around for this screening. But I suppose a person who's only just aged into the screening group might not know that. The test kits are actually delivered by Royal Mail in a slim box that fits through most letterboxes and doesn't require anybody to be at home to sign for it. But the most striking thing about all of this matter for me is the timing. I received the invitation letter saying the kit would arrive in 2 weeks, and a few days later I received this fake email. There are, I think, only two possible explanations for that, but as a fun exercise for the viewer, it's not a bad idea to see if you can think of a third. Let me know in the comments if you have any other potential explanation. The first is that there could be, or could have been, some kind of breach or leak, which could be anything from some historical data breach that happens to contain the date of my last invitation to the test, from which they can infer the likely date of the next one, because this happens on a 2-year cycle, to some more active breach where someone with access to live information about the current test cohort is selling that information to cybercriminals. And so this could be a kind of spear phishing attack where they sent me this because they know it will sound relevant. The second is that this could just be pure coincidence. Maybe the scammers or attackers just send out a few million copies of this email to a very long list of assorted addresses and let the victims select themselves. That is, some people under 50 receive it and think, weird, obviously not for me. Some people over 50 receive it and just ignore it because they already did the screening process a month or two ago, so they figure it's a mistake. Some people immediately recognise it as fake and don't need to look any further. Some of it gets trapped by spam filters. Some people just ignore it completely. But also for a small number of the recipients, like myself, the timing happens to be spot on and the message appears to be related to the thing we were already primed to expect. And there's a risk of falling into the trap because that priming has lowered their guard. And because this email makes it sound like if you don't click, you won't get your screening kit. So to recap, I didn't click on the links because my thoughts were, in approximately this order, wow, I hate that there's a link in this email. I don't want to click links. Then, hey, why is Yodel even involved in this? Then, why is the email so detailed about the consignment? Then, check the headers. Oh, right, of course, it's a scam. It did make me wonder why the NHS even bothers sending out the invitation letter to tell you the screening sample kit is on the way in 2 weeks. In that regard, they've created an opportunity for this scam. They could just send the kit with a covering letter as one dispatch. The kit did have a personalised letter in it when it arrived. I'm guessing there's a reason for this two-stage approach. Maybe they just get better uptake or engagement on the testing that way. So anyway, who cares? This is just a scam for old people, who are the people that fall for scams, right? Well, a couple of things to say about that. Firstly, if you're young and you act like your youth makes you automatically invulnerable, you might be ignoring the fact that time passes for all of us, and so one day, if you're lucky, you won't be young anymore. But if you spent your whole life ignoring these sorts of threats, thinking you're immune to them, you'll actually be especially vulnerable to them. But also, the notion that it's only old people who get scammed is simply false. In fact, the stats consistently show that the most frequently scammed age groups are the younger ones. Older people lose more money to scams in total because older people are more likely to have savings and pensions and property and other things of value that take a long time or a lifetime to acquire, so they have more to lose. But in terms of simple headcount, younger people get scammed more than older ones. So if you think you're invulnerable, I mean, you might be right. Maybe you really are special. But people who think they're invulnerable tend to take more risks because of that feeling, and the stats are weighted against you. Thinking that scams are a thing that only happen to people other than yourself is probably just your brain choosing an illusion of safety because it's far easier to attain that illusion than it is to attain actual safety. Anyway, the key lesson for today's video is to try to be aware of when some genuine event might have primed you to be more vulnerable to an attack from a scam that merely happens to sound similar. In a slightly broader context, parcel delivery scam messages of any kind are easy to trip up on because so many people buy stuff that's delivered these days. As always, my advice on this is that all links in electronic communication should be treated with zero trust, until and unless there is complete evidence that they came from a trustworthy source and that they are genuine and truly necessary. Not that many links, even genuine ones, really need clicking, and the very few that do should be treated with great care and caution. That's all I've got for today. I hope this has been useful. Thanks for watching, stay safe from scams, and I hope to see you again soon.